This coming weekend is Memorial Day weekend, Memorial Day itself being Monday. I would like to remind everybody that this is a somber time. It is not a time for celebration, although here in America, that is what we've gained from it for the most part, where we do things like go to the beach and have barbecues and parties and so forth. And that's all fine because you know what? I do believe that those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our country would want you to carry on and enjoy your weekend. But I do think it's important that we teach our youth about what this actual day is, why they have this wonderful weekend. And I'd like to read to you from the first page of my book, Baton Rouge to Baghdad and Back. This book is dedicated to my parents, Mike and Pat Ducote, my children, and the men and women who wore the uniform for God and country. Most of all, this is dedicated to my brothers and sisters who made the ultimate sacrifice, some of whom were my closest friends. To those we lost, your passion, love of country, and unwavering service shaped the man I am today. I was blessed to know you, to serve alongside you, and to call you my friend. May the Lord continue to watch over your families. This book is in memory of my friends whose sacrifice will never be forgotten, and especially on Memorial Day. Chief Warrant Officer 3, Corey Goodnature. Chief Warrant Officer 4, Chris Schreckenbach. Master Sergeant James W. Ponder III. Sergeant Kip Jacob. Staff Sergeant Michael L. Russell. Sergeant First Class Marcus Morales. Chief Warrant Officer 2, Peter A. Davis. Sergeant Michael Z. Gallant. Specialist Paul C. Seball. PFC Jennifer A.K. Harris. Chief Warrant Officer Robert Hughes. Major Marie T. Rossi Clayton. Staff Sergeant Mike Garrett. Specialist William C. Brace. Chief Warrant Officer Randall B. Potter. First Lieutenant Alan C. Urban. Staff Sergeant John P. McConnell. PFC James D. Benton, and PFC Douglas J. Kropp. And also, in the book, I mention how my family became a Gold Star family with the loss of my great uncle Nolan P. Ducote, who died in World War II. He was a navigator on a B-24 bomber. So this Memorial Day weekend, please remember those that paid the ultimate sacrifice for our country and continue to do so this very day. You had many places you could be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. Whether you're watching us tonight live on our YouTube channel, our Rumble channel over at X, please like, subscribe, share with your family and friends. Tell them all about the Douglas Ducote Show, and invite them to come over and watch the program. Also, if you haven't done so, check out douglasducote.com, our website, where you can see videos that you can't see on the regular social media platforms because they like to censor me for them. And also, we have merchandise there as well if you're into that kind of stuff. We're going to start off tonight's news with if Memorial Day isn't sad enough, with some more sad news out of the NASCAR world.
69th victory in this series, your 5th right here. Why do these moments never get old, Kyle?
Because you never know when the last one is, you know. So I know all too well, unfortunately, with the Cup stuff, but you know, here with the truck stuff right now is it's awesome just to be a part of Spire Motorsports. Thanks to Jeff and Dan and Mr. H for the opportunity. HendrickCars.com. I'm sure it looked great out front leading the race.
And that, my friends, is two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Kyle Busch, who died this evening, sending shockwaves through the garage in the racing world. Busch was only 41 years old. He was hospitalized earlier today due to an undisclosed but serious illness, according to a statement put out by his family. NASCAR, the Busch family, and Richard Childers Racing announced the death this evening, but did not offer a cause of death. On behalf of the Busch family, everyone at Richard Childers Racing, and all of NASCAR, we're devastated to announce the sudden and tragic passing of Kyle Busch. Our entire NASCAR family is heartbroken by the loss of Kyle Busch, a future Hall of Famer. Kyle was a rare talent, one who comes along once in a generation. He was fierce, he was passionate, he was immensely skilled, and he cared deeply about the sport and fans. Throughout a career that spanned more than 2 decades, Kyle set records in National Series wins, won championships at NASCAR's highest level, and fostered the next generation of drivers as an owner in the Truck Series. His sharp wit, competitive spirit sparked a deep emotional connection with race fans of every age, creating the proud and loyal Rowdy Nation. Our thoughts are with Samantha, Brexton, and Lennox, Kyle and Samantha's parents, Kurt and all of Kyle's family, Richard and Judy Childers, and everyone at Richard Childers Racing, his teammates, his friends, and his fans. Once again, a legend in the racing world has gone to be with our Lord. May He watch over their family and friends during this tragic situation. On Tuesday night show, I told you that one of the things that we were going to talk about, we never got around to it, was this controversy that's happening out in California with a, once again, biological men and women's sports and biological boys and girls sports. And as I got ready to do this story tonight for you, something popped up that happened today that kind of goes hand in hand with this. And it's pretty shocking, to say the least. So I'm going to lead with that and then go into the story that we didn't get a chance to get to on Tuesday. A Woman's History Museum on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Would anybody be opposed to that? I'll repeat that. A Woman's History Museum on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Well, it's legislation being put forward by Republicans in Congress and even bipartisan with Democrats. It's already been funded. The money's there. Well, it was bipartisan until today. So pay close attention to this story because midterms will be here faster than you think. And this, my friends, is what the Democrat members of Congress actually think about women and girls. House Democrats unanimously rebelled against legislation today directing the construction of the new Women's History Museum on the National Mall. Democrats sought to defeat the bill after Republicans limited the institution to biological women and excluded anyone that was not a biological woman, meaning transgender. The measure came up short in a vote of 204 to 216 after a handful of conservative GOP lawmakers joined the Democrats in tanking the legislation that would secure a site for the forthcoming Smithsonian American Women's History Museum on the grounds of the mall in Washington, D.C. The defecting Republicans objected to the measure over concerns about whether a women's history museum was necessary and because the bill did not include protections against left-wing content from appearing in the institution. You couldn't make this shit up if you tried. American women are already proudly honored across the Smithsonian, from pioneers and patriots to scientists and leaders. It was not immediately clear whether Republican leadership would attempt to bring the legislation up for a vote at a later date. Democrats' widespread opposition to the legislation came after the Democrat Women's Caucus issued a statement accusing Republicans of targeting transgender women and girls, but an amendment defeating the museum around biological women. The female lawmakers argued the anticipated museum was long overdue, but said they could not support the legislation with the biological women language added, which many Democrats characterized as a poison pill. The museum shall be dedicated to preserving, researching, and presenting the history, achievements, and lives experienced of biological women in the United States, the amendment measures. Authored by Representative Mary Miller, Republican of Illinois, states in part, the museum may not depict any biological male as a female. The addition of the word biological male had them all running for the hills, House Speaker Mike Johnson said during a news conference today. If that's controversy and the Democrat Party, we're in serious trouble. Well, yes, it is, Mike. The party that proposed to support women, demanding that the museum include biological men. Now let that sink in for a moment, my friends. Democrats' decision to withdraw support for the museum measure comes as the party has continued to advocate for transgender rights, despite questions over whether those views contributed to its poor performance in the 2024 election. You think? Many Democrats also continue to face GOP scrutiny about providing a definition for women. Democrat lawmakers also slammed amendment language in the bill, granting the president the authority to choose an alternative site within 180 days of the measures going into law. The amendment, the bill to give Trump and his allies unregulated power over what content and which women can be included in the museum and the museum's location. Democrat Women's Caucus Chairwoman Teresa Lang Fernandez, Democrat, New Mexico, said in a joint statement earlier this week with other female Democrat lawmakers. A museum about women, fought for and supported by women, should not be controlled by one man. Representative Nicole Malasky, Republican, New York, the sponsor of the museum measure, accused Democrats of hiding behind irrationality to avoid addressing the transgender provision. A women's history museum is supposed to be dedicated to women, period. And the fact that congressional Democrats are going to pull their support after overwhelmingly co-sponsoring this bill because the word biological was inserted, to me, is ludicrous. They're going to have to explain to their voters why they believe this museum should not be built and why they believe there should be transgender exhibits in it, she added. Remember that midterms. Remember that in midterms. Now, to the piece that I was going to do on Tuesday that we didn't get around to. On the morning of the day that would live in girls' sports infamy, a letter was handed out to coaches who entered the championship track and field meet at Moorpark High School in California. The letter announced that any girl who finished behind a biological male trans athlete would be bumped up by one spot on the podium. If that girl finished behind the trans athlete, isn't that generous of them? The letter was dated May 16th, the day of the event. The California Interscholastic Federation will implement the pilot entry process introduced last season at the 2025 CIF Track and Field State Championships. Under the pilot entry process, any cisgender female student athlete who would have earned the next qualifying mark for one of the Southern Section's qualifying entries is extended an opportunity to participate in the next stage of qualifying for the 2026 State Track and Field Championships. The CIF values all our student athletes and will continue to uphold our mission in providing students with the opportunity to belong, connect, and compete while complying with California law and education code. Additionally, any cisgender female student athlete, and by the way, cisgender, if you don't know this, and I didn't know it, I just learned this yesterday actually, is basically straight people. Or people that are not straight people, people that are male or female. Additionally, any cisgender female athlete would have earned a specific placement on the podium will also be awarded the medal for that place. In other words, if they came in after the athlete, let's say the trans girl gets a gold medal and the next one down should have gotten a bronze, they will get upgraded to a silver, I guess. And the results reflect in the recording of the event. A week earlier, a pair of competing political press conferences took place the first round meet, all due to the presence of trans athlete. The White House had engaged in a war of words with California Governor Gavin Newsom's office over the issue and the days leading up to that first round meet. It all started when a source with Newsom's office provided a statement to the news media prior to the first round, addressing the pending Save Girls Sports protest. That statement thrust the state's entire girls track and field postseason into the eye of the storm of a natural culture war, amplified by hotly contested, high-stakes election cycle. The statement contained the now infamous line that read, "Stand with all kids and stand up to bullies." This is absolutely ridiculous. So the girl who won and continues to win at that high school and their competing high schools across California and everything she competes in, whether it's track and field or high jump, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. She wins and walks away with the gold. His name is A.B. Hernandez of Jupiter Valley High School. That is a boy with a penis, a biological male that is competing in all the girls' sports out there in this district and kicking the girls' asses. Gavin Newsom and his California Democrats are okay with this. Just like, as I shared with you the story prior to this, the Democrat leadership up in Washington, D.C. is okay with this. So much so that they voted against the Women's Museum in Washington over the word biological woman. Don't forget that at midterms, Democrats and independents. If your morals, values, and beliefs are that women and girls who have made leaps and bounds and have strived for years and years to have equal footing with males whether it's in the workforce or in sports, to now be hijacked by males is sickening. That's the Democrat leadership in Congress and across America. Speaking of Democrats, the Democrat National Committee Chair, Ken Martin, is publicly disowning his party's own 2024 election autopsy, calling the long-delayed report a product that does not meet my standards, after Democrats suffered what he described as a painful and consequential defeat to President Donald J. Trump. And boy, was it ever. Trump, well, it was the biggest red wave, I think, in our American history. Trump won not only the presidency, the House, the Senate, the popular vote, the Electoral College, all the swing states. It was the biggest trashing of Democrats to ever take place. The blunt admission came, as Martin described, former Vice President Kamala Harris' 2024 defeat as a punch to the gut, and acknowledged the Democrat Party's brand is in trouble and needs repair. You think? As a former Democrat, I've been telling you that for years. I'm not proud of this product. It does not meet my standards, and it won't meet your standards, Martin said in the report, adding that he could not, in good faith, put the DNC stamp of approval on it. Martin emphasized that he was releasing the report for the sake of transparency, as I received it in its entirety, unedited, unbridged, with anonymous of claims that couldn't be verified. The report argues Democrats weakened their own political infrastructure through cuts to state party support, declining voter registration efforts, and reduced grassroots organizing, while also failing to listen to key voting blocs. Mistakes, it says, allow Republicans to make gains with votes, and Democrats have increasingly struggled to reach, particularly middle America, independents, blacks, and Hispanics. CNN was first to release the report, and the report, however, picked apart certain claims of lacking evidence. In one such section, the report claims that Harris' campaign appears to have relied on Trump's being unacceptable rather than building an affirmative case for Harris, to which it reads, no evidence provided in this claim. Well, the evidence was how she ran her campaign. Same way the Democrats are running their campaigns for this coming midterms. They're not putting forward any solutions to any problems that they're addressing that Trump has caused in America. They're running on, we have to take Trump and his Republicans out of office. That's all they're running on. Trump's a bad guy. MAGA's a bad people. Republicans are horrible. They're not doing anything for the country. They're not telling you what they're going to do to make things better. They don't have a plan. If they do, please share it with me. I pay attention to it. I used to be a Democrat. Martin, who was elected DNC chair earlier last year, has faced pressure from within the party and increased public criticism over the autopsy, controversy, and over the DNC's fundraising woes, because they're not getting any money right now. All those MAGA millionaire, billionaire donors, corporate CEOs that have been donating for years to the Democrats after this last defeat said, we're not wasting our money on the Democrat Party anymore. The party remains far behind the Republican National Committee and key fundraisers and cash on hand. Former DNC chair Dave Hogg, a vocal Martin critic on Thursday called for the chairman to resign. This autopsy and the months-long debate about even releasing the report is a demoralizing joke. It's clear that Chair Ken Martin has lost his confidence of his staff, supporters, and most importantly, millions of Americans counting on the DNC to help Democrats win up and down the ballot, 2026 and 2028. Hogg charged. Ken Martin should resign, and the DNC should select a new leader who demonstrates competence, creativity, moral clarity, and relentless commitment to actually changing the broken Democrat Party brand, Hogg emphasized. And see, that's the whole problem. Like I just told you, it isn't about how we're going to fix things, what we're going to do different. And furthermore, think about who they put up as their best choice. A man that we determine, we the people, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, everybody in America watched the deterioration of his mental state. I'm not making fun of that. That happens when we get older, okay? Not everybody, but most people as they get older, especially when they get up in their 80s, then they start losing their mental capacity. And we watched this happen to Joe Biden in a massive way. And then they chose, when the Democrats finally realized that this ain't going to work, especially after the last debate he had with Trump, they didn't even hold a primary. They didn't even hold a vote at the DNC. They just anointed Kamala Harris, who we the people, Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, watched for 4 years be nothing but a laughing hyena that couldn't put together 2 sentences without blundering it and took nothing seriously. She was a big joke that did nothing as vice president that anybody can point to as, wow, look what she accomplished. Nothing. She was a laughing hyena bitch. And she took the place of the bitch boy. And the Democrats suffered the worst defeat in their entire history. And I can only pray that that happens at midterms too. And if they continue down the road of wanting boys and girls sports and men and women's sports and men and women's locker rooms and boys and girls locker rooms, hopefully enough people will say, I'm not voting for that shit. All they have to do, and I've been saying this for a long, long time. My God, I'm so tired of saying it. I've said it hundreds and hundreds of times. If you are a registered Democrat voter out there, not paying attention to politics because you're trying to raise your family, you're trying to work, you're trying to put food on the table, raise your kids, all you have to do is start listening to what the Democrat leadership up in Washington, D.C. is saying. What's coming out of their mouths. You can see the videos. They're all over YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook. They're everywhere. And tell me that your morals and values align with that bullshit. We want open borders. We don't want to deport anybody that's here illegally, especially if they committed crimes against Americans. We just want to slap them on the wrist and let them back out into the population and continue to commit crimes. We want to defund the military. We don't want to allow the military or a president to go after countries that are trying to destroy America, with a nuclear weapon, be it Iran, or drugs, be it Venezuela. We want an open border, and we're okay with sex trafficking of women and children coming across that border. And the cartel members. Oh, they're humans. We treat everybody like with respect. That came out of Nancy Pelosi's mouth. Listen to what Cory Booker's saying, what Hankum Jeffries is saying, what AOC is saying, Rashida Tlaib and Alihan Omar, their hatred for America, their transgender push, less than 1% of the population. They want that less than 1% of the population to be able to dominate women and girls sports. That in itself should make you go, I can't vote for that. I'm not saying become a Republican. I got no love lost. There's no love lost here for the Republican Party. I left it. I'm now registered independent. They're a bunch of crooked assholes just like the fucking Democrats are. Are there some good Democrat members of Congress? Yes. Are there some good Republican members of Congress? Yes. But the majority of them, I wouldn't spit in their mouth if they were dying of thirst right in front of me. Because they're horrible, evil people that do not give a shit about the American people. And that's just the fact. So we have to pay closer attention. That's all I'm saying. There are a lot of Republicans that do not care for Maine Republican Senator Susan Collins. I'm a former Democrat turned Republican turned independent that never really cared for Susan Collins even when I was a Republican. But she is, it looks like, going to be up against a Democrat that, in my opinion, to put it lightly, is a piece of shit. And the voters of Maine need to pay close attention to this. So here's the story. Senator Susan Collins of Maine ripped Maine Senate candidate, the Democrat, Graham Planter, over his recent exposed Reddit post. This is a guy who wants to run against Susan Collins at midterms and become the senator for Maine and replace her. And she needs to go because she's a rhino, but not with this dickhead. Planter, the presumed Democrat nominee, challenging Collins at midterms. It's never appropriate, Collins said, to mock a downed American soldier. What are we talking about? It's just appalling. A slew of newly resurfaced Reddit posts from Democrat candidate Planter includes comments he made about a viral video of a U.S. military soldier by the name of PFC Ted Daniels, who almost lost his life and was almost killed in combat, but he survived. The video from Daniels' helmet camera during the battle he was in shows Daniels being shot 4 times during a 2012 firefight with Taliban fighters. He was later awarded the Purple Heart for those injuries. And Planters wrote, "Dumb motherfucker, didn't deserve to live." He posted that in 2019. The handle he had, which he's admitted was his, was called P. Hustle. He went on to say, at least his stupid and fat ass wheezing are available for all future infantrymen to witness and hold in contempt, because the camera is still running after he's been shot and he's laying down there breathing hard and trying to survive. He goes on to say, poor marksmanship on the Taliban's part is the only reason this mouth breather made it home. He managed to make every possible shit decision possible when it comes to small unit combat. That's the Democrat member that wants to take Susan Collins' position. When Collins was asked about all Planter's resurfaced posts circulating online, she asked for specifics. The response comes as Planter has had lewd Reddit posts continuing to come to light since last year. You've had to narrow your question down because there are so many, Collins said when asked for her reaction. These now deleted posts can be viewed on the Maine Monitor's database cataloging planners' deleted rhetoric history. A super PAC, aligned with Collins, launched the website on Wednesday that complies all the planners' red flags. Pine Tree Results, a fundraising committee, lists all the controversies that have followed Planner during his campaign to unseat Collins at midterms. Over 20 years of a grown man revealing his true character with one red flag after another, the site states. He's radical, he's dangerous, he's too extreme for Maine. The website launched in part of more than $4 million already spent on attacking ads targeting Planner during Collins' re-election campaign. Collins' seat is expected to be one of Republicans' most competitive seats that she's defending in 2026 as Democrats target Maine in their push to flip control of the chamber. This race is critical for Republicans as they try to keep their Senate majority. While Planner continues to be scrutinized by Republicans, Democrats are seemingly still hopeful that he will secure the Senate seat for their party during the 2026 midterms. If Collins and Planners win their primary elections next month, and it looks like they both will, they will face off in Maine November 3rd in the general election. That dickhead right there that said such horrible, disgusting, despicable, subhuman things about a video from an Army PFC dying on the battlefield. And thank God he survived. That is what the Democrat Party wants to replace Susan Collins with. Just like they wanted to replace Trump with a brain dead Biden. And when they realized he was brain dead, chose a laughing hyena that couldn't put two sentences together. Just like all the rest of the Democrat leadership, it's okay with boys and girls sports and men and women's sports and in their locker rooms, in their bathrooms. The Democrat Party of today is a sick party, mentally ill, period. Speaking of sick individuals, you all are going to remember this guy. You can't not remember him. The country met Representative Daniel Sachs Goldman, Democrat in New York. He's the wealthy scion of Levi Jeans fortune back in 2019 when he was tapped to lead counsel for the first impeachment of President Trump. Since being elected to Congress in 2022, his reputation as an anti-Trump zealot has only metastasized. So it is shocking, and no doubt in a happy way for Trump, that according to a new Emerson poll, Goldman is trailing in his primary against Democrat socialist leaning Brad Lanner by over 30 points. In other words, he is getting absolutely smoked. Goldman must have thought back when he was leading the charge against Trump that he had one foot in the White House. But my, how the tables have turned. Fans of the president and frankly the rule of law cannot be blaming for fleeing a fleet of scandalous at the political demise of the despicable Goldman, who helped to turn Trump's perfect phone call with Ukrainian President Zelensky into a pointless national nightmare, as you all will remember. His ABBA-like obsession with this great orange well came with him to Congress. In 2023, he told Gene Paskey of MSNBC that Trump was destructive to our democracy and he must be eliminated. So I want you to think about this for a moment. The Democrats in New York are looking at a socialist, a communist socialist, just like the one they elected for mayor of New York, to replace the anti-Trumper that led the first impeachment of Trump. That's the Democrat Party for you. They're confused right now. Do we elect the guy who called Trump a threat to democracy and led the impeachment to get rid of him? Or do we elect a communist socialist like we did with the mayor of New York? How sad and pathetic is that? If you ask me, well, it's very sad and pathetic. And here we are with the trans people marching on Washington, D.C. and demanding that we recognize them in women and girls sports. And look, I don't care if you're trans. I don't care if you're bi. I don't care if you're a member of the LGBT community. I don't care if you're straight. I don't care what the hell you are. I do not care about your sexual orientation. What you do behind closed doors as a consenting adult, I don't care. When you involve children and you start giving them puberty blockers and cutting off their penises because the child said, I want to be a girl, mommy and daddy, instead of a boy, who doesn't even know anything about sex yet or biological stuff because it's a kid, and the Democrats support that, that's a sickness. It's a sickness. So leave the kids out of it, for crying out loud. And I'm all for trans people having their own damn Olympics. When we have Olympics, we have Special Olympics for handicapped people. My child's one of them. He's a gold medalist in Special Olympics. Let's have Olympics for trans people. Let's have sports for trans people. Don't let them be in women and girls sports. What the fuck is wrong with you Democrats up in Washington, D.C. and across the country in leadership positions that think that's okay? It's not. It's not okay. All the strides that women have made through history in America, from the right to vote, to the right to be able to drive a car, to the right to get equal pay, all this to be able to become doctors and lawyers, and you just want to wipe it all away like it just doesn't exist anymore. That's the Democrat leadership up in Washington, D.C. And then we had a few Republicans that agreed with that shit. So I tell you, folks, the Democrat Party, Lewis Black said it very simple. The Democrat Party says, oh, we've got a shitty idea. And the Republicans go, oh, we can make it shittier. They don't care about we the people. They don't care about you or about me. They just care about their own ideology. How to make shit more complicated for you and I. And we have this war of Iran that I support. It needed to happen. But not the way it's happening. As a 4-time combat veteran, and I know I'm not alone, there are many vets out there that are going, what the fuck are we doing? If you're going to put our troops in harm's way to fight a war, you give them everything they need and you say, go and don't stop until it's over and finished, then bring the troops home. And that's not what we did, is it? We're stopping the negotiations. The negotiations have never worked. We've been trying to negotiate with these motherfuckers since 1979, and it hasn't worked. It's never going to work. They're never going to agree to anything that Western civilization says. And I've always said, I've said it many, many times on this program, that the only way for peace in the Middle East is to cut the head off the snake, and the snake is Iran. So we did that. We took out the Ayatollah, and we took out many of the leadership positions. We took out most of the Navy and the Air Force. We left the Republican Guard. We left all these fucking speedboats. We left their drone capability. They said we annihilated their entire nuclear program, sent it back to the Stone Age. And now we're saying it's not. And so now we're negotiating with them to give up their nuclear program and give up the shit that's on the ground there that they have. They're not going to agree to that. Why are we doing this? Well, we're sitting back watching prices skyrocket here in America now. Gas prices, food prices, it's all going up. With the gas prices, if something doesn't change real quick, which is this war ending and the straits being open, and I think the only way to do that is just kill all them motherfuckers, not the civilians, but we know where their current leadership is. Kill them. Kill their command and control structure. Kill everything that has anything to do with their military or government. Kill it. Destroy it. Wipe it off the face of the fucking earth. And then let the exiled president back in there, and the people will welcome him with open arms. It's that simple. Because if this continues for another 30 days, watch what's going to happen. Mark my words. 18-wheelers are going to stop driving on the interstate because they can't afford the fuel. The diesel is out skyrocketing in prices right now because of this shit. And sadly, we don't even get our oil through the straits. But because we're tied into the global market, if it affects another country, it affects us, which is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard of. So something needs to happen. It needs to happen really, really quick. But here we are. And then Venezuela. I was all for that. These narco terrorists, they've been labeled terrorists. And the Democrats are trying to say, oh, they're fishing vessels. We're killing innocent fishermen. What? We've got CIA, special operators from our military on the ground taking video and film of the drugs being loaded on the boats so we know what boat is going out there to strike. And then they say, oh, well, if somebody survives, we're striking and killing the survivor. We should be rescuing that person. With what? We don't have the fucking Coast Guard over there to go out and rescue the guy. They're out in the goddamn ocean. You think they're going to survive long enough to get a boat out there to pick them up? Without sharks eating them? They're already damaged and bleeding. It's a matter of time before they're eaten. The mental capacity of the Democrats in Washington, D.C. is just fucking mind-boggling. So we go in there, we get that dictator out of power. We basically put in a government that we can work with, and that's all fine and dandy. Now we can have good relations with Venezuela. I brought on this program just a few weeks ago a mom, an Angel family member. Her daughter was killed by an illegal alien from Venezuela. They got back to Venezuela. And Trump promised her personally to her face that if he won the second time, he would go get that guy. Well, now we basically have Venezuela working for us. We can send anybody down there. They will let our FBI go in there. They will let any of our law enforcement organizations whether it be border, whether it be federal marshals. They don't care. They want to work with us. They'd be more than happy to turn that son of a bitch over to us. And you know what's being done about it? Not a damn thing. Why? Why, Republicans? Why? So the U.S. Marshal that's in charge of that case, that knows exactly where this guy's at, knows exactly what he's doing. I reached out to him and asked him if he would come on my podcast so I could interview him after I interviewed the mother. And he agreed. But it had to go through proper channels, and I had to submit a request through the U.S. Marshal Service. It got denied. Why? Quote, because of the political climate. As in, the U.S. Marshal person that denied it is a fucking liberal Democrat. That's why. Now, I'm not giving out names right now, as you notice, because I've been asked not to by people that I respect. But in the coming future, if something doesn't happen real quick and Donald Trump doesn't order our law enforcement, our Department of Justice, our FBI to go get this motherfucker, I'm not going to have a choice but to start naming people at the Federal Marshal Service that need to be fucking fired. Because there is no reason, none, that we haven't went and got that motherfucker yet. And here we sit. It's a complete and utter shit show happening in America. And on top of all that, we now have full disclosure from our own government, from the Pentagon, from the Air Force, from NASA, from members of Congress, Democrat and Republican, from all the people that worked on the government programs, that not only are UFOs real, but we have their craft that have crashed. We have the aliens that were in them. It was all true. It wasn't a conspiracy theory at all. And nobody gives a shit about it because there's so much crap going on that's fucked up right now that it's just right over everybody's head. The two biggest questions of mankind is there life after death? What happens to us? Or are we alone in the universe? And we finally have the answer to the second part. We're not alone in the universe. And the technology that they have makes us look like the fucking Flintstones. And we're so fucked up right now in America that Americans don't give two shits about what's coming out of Washington, D.C. right now in massive amounts. Trump ordered all the classified UFO files to be released that have been held from the public for all these years. All the stuff from NASA, from the astronauts, from military pilots, from those that have come forward now that worked on these government programs that were re-engineering, back engineering these craft. They've all testified in front of Congress and said, yeah, it's real. We have the fucking craft. Then ask, well, what about showing pictures of the people? Well, we're okay with that, but the average person is going to think it's AI and not real. Because things are so fucked up that nobody cares. It's like I'm living in the Twilight Zone. It really is. Like, how do we get where we're at now? As somebody that served this country with honor and took an oath numerous times, not only in the military, but in law enforcement, I'm sitting back now at 64 years old going, I don't get it. If let's just go back just 10 years. That's it. Just go back 10 years. And you would have told me 10 years ago where we're going to be at May 21st, 2026 at 8:59 p.m., I'd have laughed in your face. Because there's no fucking way Democrats or Republicans would be pulling this stupid shit. And here we are. As always, remember, we have Memorial Day weekend coming up. I hope whatever you're doing, you're going to be safe. Remember the reason for this weekend. Remember those that paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms. Because sadly, those up in Washington, D.C., for the most part, don't fucking care. At least that's my take on it. I do. I served with many of them. I came home and they didn't. I live with that survivor's guilt in some of those cases. Memorial Day. Remember those that paid the ultimate sacrifice for this country. And to their families, thank you for what you've went through. We're sorry for your loss. We wish this pain on no one, just like the Angel families. But sadly, that's where we're at today. And we hope that God continues to wrap his arms around all of you that are Angel families and Gold Star families. And that for most Americans, your loved one's sacrifice was not in vain. Be safe this weekend. Have a good time. That's what my brothers and sisters that died for this country would want you to do. And please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, our Angel families, our Blue and Gold Star families again in our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each and every one of you. I'll be back here next week on Tuesday for another episode. I hope you will join me. Hope you will bring people with you. And regardless of where you're watching us tonight, please like, subscribe, ring the bell if it's like, for instance, on YouTube, so you get notifications. And we'll see you real soon. Good night, everybody. And thank you for being here.